Have you ever sat there and watched a scary movie? And so, of course, you're on this side of the screen and you can see everything. And you're yelling at the TV as if these people can hear you saying, hey, like, don't go in there. Or, hey, keep running. Or, hey, he's behind you, right? So your perspective and how you see things is different from theirs because they're actually in it. And sometimes their vision isn't the full scope of your vision and what you can see. The whole time you're trying to save their life. And depending on the scary movie, sometimes that's not the case, right? So I bring that up because I feel like this matches what's going on with retirement right now. Now, of course, in a scary movie, you know that you are in danger. You just don't really know exactly where the danger is or how to get away from the danger, maybe. But the same goes for retirement. I think you guys pretty much understand that things are different and, yeah, and that there's definitely something that you're going to have to do, but maybe you don't know exactly what to do or that you can even do anything, right? So I'm going to, as quickly as I can, go over what used to be and what is now and things that you need to be concerned about and thinking about right now. Now, to kind of walk back memory lane a little bit, when I was 24, I started my actual full-time job. So I graduated school, let's see, I was like 21, almost 22. No, actually 22. And I worked PRN for quite a while on nights, but then I was going to get married, so I wanted a more stable job with benefits and things like that. So I started my big girl job at age 24. And I remember sitting across from HR at the HR table, and she's going over a bunch of things, benefits, health insurance, and she gets onto retirement. Now, at the time, I didn't know anything about retirement. It's actually kind of funny now that I'm so into economics and that my business centers around finance, because back in the day, you couldn't even pay me to even care or pay attention to any of this stuff, right? But I'm sitting there, 24 years old, and she slides a paper across the table and says, hey, I need you to pick a percentage. This is for your retirement. So I'm like, oh, is this like that 401k thing that I hear people talking about? And she's like, yeah. And I said, okay. So I pick a percentage. I put it in there. It's going in the stock market, right? And she said, yes. And I said, okay. Well, quick question. You just said that, I can use these funds after 59 and a half years old, although I want to retire much earlier than that, but we'll just get to that later. I said, but at the time that I want to go ahead and take the funds and retire, what would happen if the market was down? Would I get to get that money back? And she says, no. Look at me like I'm crazy. She's like, no. And I said, oh, so that's a thing? Like, we just don't know, and we just hope that it's not going to happen. And that she's like, yeah. And in that moment, in my mind, I didn't say it out loud, but I was like, that's kind of crazy. That's like going to Vegas. Like, I was like, you can't even give me any guarantees. So I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe this is just play money. You guys got a pension? She's like, not for y'all. I was like, so this is it? Like, I put my money in the market and I just really hope that things work out for me. And she's like, yes. Now, by this time, she's irritated and she just probably wants me to get out of her face. But again, I was 24 years old, and that was the first time I ever actually thought seriously about this topic. Because in my young mind, that just didn't make sense. And I kept thinking, how did my grandparents retire? Like this, how did they do this? Now, let's get on to the main part of this video. Mm-hmm. They didn't, right? So to retirement used to be what we call the three-legged stool. And again, this was for your grandparents. Maybe if your parents are like the older section of baby boomers, this also applied to them as well. But you had pensions, you had Social Security, and then you had what you saved and invested on your own. Now, let's be real. Even though it was three legs, the first two legs actually did it for most people. So that's why you didn't see people needing a financial advisor or a financial consultant or a retirement strategist, because there was nothing to strategize. You walk in, you work for a company for 30, 40 years, you take this little finger right here, you push the pension button, boom, activated. That is a guaranteed income every month. On top of that, you had a nice, healthy Social Security check. Okay? So even if you had used the third leg, that was for play. Now, with that being the old model, let me tell you what happened. So in 1978, they, the wealthy and everybody else, government, I feel like they just all have like this one big Christmas party together. But anyways, they go ahead and put out a tax code. So IRC, Internal Revenue Code, 401 Section K. Now, to this day, we know, or people think, oh, that's a retirement account. Well, I'm here to tell you it's a tax code. It's not an actual retirement account. That's just a nickname now that they give this to tell you that this was made for retirement when it actually wasn't. This was created, to give CEOs, companies like loopholes for taxes, things like that. So they got to scratching their head and they said, well, why don't we take this a step further? So what they used to do was give you a pension, or your grandparents a pension, right? And that cost them money, right? But this new tax code, if they brought in a financial company and had them apply the tax code to stocks, mutual funds, bonds, whatever, then they get a tax write-off for every dollar that they match you in this account. So they went from shelling out money to pensions to thinking, well, why don't we just do this? Like, I know it wasn't created for retirement, but it sounds pretty cool. And if we present it to them this way and say, you get to be in the market now, and people go, oh, really? Then we can kind of get away with taking the pensions away and offering this. So that's what happened. So in the early 1980s, they started introducing this as a retirement account, even though it was not created that way. They started matching dollars and getting a tax write-off, and they took your pensions away, which was a guaranteed income. Okay? Still follow me? Great. So that's what happened. Now, Social Security. Social Security started in 1935. When they started it, it was 42 workers putting into the pot, one person taking out. Now, slowly but surely, here's your 42, here's your one person taking it out. This slowly started doing this because now more and more people are taking out, and it's starting to kind of almost equal how many people are putting in. We know baby boomers was the first big generation to hit the scene, 78 million people born between 1946 and 64. So again, they're thinking like, oh man, this is about to blow up. Now, of course, the tax for Social Security also trended up. We started at like 1%. Now we're at like 12.4, right? So that is also trended up, and employers, of course, pay half of that and you pay the other half. Now, the trust fund for Social Security, although it got built up over time, guess what? It's actually going to be completely gone by the year 2034. Somebody wasn't managing their money right. And there's just a lot of people on Social Security, okay? So there's a lot of factors as to why this trust fund is almost gone. I'm not even going to get into that because I'm trying to keep this as short as possible. But just know it is, all right? So now we think about Social Security, how our grandparents had a pension, a nice, healthy Social Security check. It was like way more people putting in than actually taking out. Now that ratio is 1.8, okay? So we know there's not 0.8 of a person, so let's just say 2. 2 people putting in, 1 person taking out. We're basically going from putting it in, taking out of your check, and then giving it to them in their hands. That's where we're at right now. So you can only imagine that possibly, or I like to say possibly just because they're like, don't say that, but the math's not mathing. So Social Security is not looking good for us. And even if they do try to keep it around, they're just going to push the age up because the math is not mathing. Okay. So those 2 legs that your grandparents used for retirement, and then the third leg was just for fun. Now we are essentially down, most Americans, down to just that 1 leg. And what they've done is they've given you a retirement savings plan. So that's 401k, all its brothers and sisters, 403b, 457, 401a, whatever it is you have, right, is that 1 leg. And of course, you can put other things to that leg that you personally do on your own. So with that being said, my question to you is, doesn't it feel different sitting on a stool with 3 legs versus 1? Yeah, you're going to be balancing. And if you're not really good at that, you're going to fall. Okay. So I think of this, and I know I gave you the analogy of a scary movie, but I think of this as a train on a track, and it's going very fast, and there's a wall right up ahead. Okay. I see it. My colleagues see it. And I'm pretty sure you do too. But again, some people are like, well, Kristen, what do we do? I meet with people and they say, you know what, made peace with the fact that I'll never retire. And I just really want to ask you, is that really what you want? Now, of course, you're saying no. And there are ways where you can prepare. And even though we've pretty much been screwed over, right, by the system, by companies, because what they did was they chose themselves and they did not choose you. They didn't even tell you, right? I can only imagine, in the 1980s, they had these, meetings behind closed doors and they said, but is this really going to be enough? Is it going to work? And them saying, I don't know, but we're getting a tax write-off for every dollar that we match, so who cares? There's no guarantees with your retirement savings plan like there were guarantees with your pension. Again, you took your finger, you pushed a button after working a certain amount of years, and you got a check until you died. Now you have a retirement savings plans and there are no guarantees. The market is not a guarantee. What you can get out of it is not a guarantee. And people used to pass around this little myth that all you needed was $1 million. Now, only 2.7% of people with a retirement savings plan actually get to $1 million. And even if you are the 2.7% that does happen to pull that off, that's roughly $40,000 a year before taxes for roughly maybe 20 years, maybe a little bit past that if you're pretty good at what you do, right? So you are probably not in that 2.7% range. They took away your pension. Social Security checks are getting lower and lower, and they're probably about to push the age up even higher for you to even access that. And retirement is now on a one-leg stool. Okay? So I just gave you the rundown, the scary movie, right, of what we're seeing. And if right now you're sitting here telling yourself, yes, I understand that I need to start actually strategically planning this thing out, but I don't know how to do that. There are people like myself that have dedicated time, their careers. This wasn't my first career. But I have, for the last almost 8 years, dedicated my time, effort, money, everything in between to educate the American people on their options and to also educate them on just really what happened in general and why retirement is no longer a guaranteed system for you to finally kick your legs up and relax. So when we're talking about how the other two legs are pretty much gone and how we only have one leg left, you must maximize that one leg left to the fullest. You can't play around with this. You can't sit and wait until you are in your late 40s or 50s to really get serious about this. And you have to consider taxes, okay? And all we know, just by what we're seeing right now, and I'm not going to go, there's several rabbit holes I can go down right now, but I'm not going to do that. But what we do know is taxes are trending up. So if you are even throwing the kitchen sink at a traditional IRA 401k situation, you are still going to have to pay taxes. Even if you have a Roth situation at work, but your employer is matching dollars, you have to pay taxes on those matching dollars. They're not going to pay that. They put that bill on you. So even with people who are pretty savvy and they have a plan and they have all these different streams, a lot of those streams are taxable streams. So did you lock in the tax rate when you started these retirement savings plans? The answer is no. And if the government says at that time, the tax rate is 47%, what can you do about it? Nothing, right? So my job is to, one, inform and educate you on what's happening, what's going on, why things have changed. And the first generation to actually get screwed over by this, honestly, is the baby boomers, especially the back half of the baby boomers, okay? Next generation to get screwed over is Gen X, and millennials, by the time it gets to us, what are we doing here, okay? So again, my job is to inform you on what has changed and also to show you pathways on how you can use that one leg to the fullest potential, okay? Now, of course, there's several different ways you can maximize this one leg, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution for everyone. That's one of my pet peeves when I see a general retirement plan blueprint and they say, hey, everybody follow this. And I'm like, yikes, because everyone's goals are not the same. Everyone's retirement age that they want to retire is not the same, right? Everyone's situation where they live, what they have going on is not the same. But again, you can sit down and customize how you're going to maximize that one leg. And like I said, people like myself who have dedicated time, energy, effort, money, everything you can think of to make sure that you maximize that leg to the fullest, we're here. So if you have any questions about what that leg looks like for you and how to maximize that, go ahead and look in the comments of this video and click the link so that you can sign up for a consultation to meet with myself. And we will go ahead and get started on maximizing that one-legged stool that we have left.